All right, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to Unfiltered. We are so glad that you're joining us today. I want to start off and just introduce my partner in crime today, Austin, my son. Hello, Austin. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you guys doing? Doing all right?
Us guys?
Yeah.
You're talking to me? You're talking
the
to people?
producer, you know.
Yeah, I'm the producer. I'm the creator. I'm the writer. I'm the speaker. This is a one-man show.
Yeah.
So today I've got Austin with me. We're going to talk about several different topics. So we want to hear from you. Go download the Real Talk Radio app if you haven't. You can go on the chat part of the app and talk to us on the chat. Let us know what you think. Let us know if there's a topic you want to talk about. Let us know if you disagree. Or you can text me at 314-924-4215. That's 314-924-4215. So we're going to open this show up, but first, just in case, if you're brand new to the show, I know that we literally have way more power these days on the radio show. We are reaching way more people, so you may be brand new today to the show, and if you don't know what this is all about, let me just kind of catch you up to speed here. I'm a pastor out in St. Clair, Missouri, for a church called Roots Church. We're non-denominational, and this radio show is a chance for me to talk about social, political, and biblical issues from my perspective as a pastor. And so I try to be unfiltered as much as I can, obviously respecting the opposition of maybe the way I believe, because I obviously want to be loving and respectful, but at the same time, I want to let people know what I think about it. Yeah. And so that's what this show is about. That's why you can text me, you can talk on the chat, whatever. And listen, we're not going to agree on everything, and that is okay. That's what's great about our country. We just have to accept the fact that we're all going to, in certain topics, we're going to think differently, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you and I even think differently about many topics.
Yeah, I think that's what makes it unique and great.
And we're related.
We can learn from each other. And
we work together.
We do, all of those things.
And so it can be a challenge, but guess what? We respect one another. And usually you're wrong and I'm right. So everybody out there has the right to be wrong.
That's funny.
You guys like when I say that, don't you? Yeah. Well, listen, today, Austin, I want to talk. We got 4 segments. And in the second segment, we'll do This Day in History. And then in the third segment is what I call the meat and potato segment. So we have a lot to talk about. I'm not going to give you everything up front. I'm just going to tell you right now we're going to talk about an article that I saw on the Daily Wire. I just recommend, if you think like us and you believe like us, the Daily Wire is a great news source, or what would you call it, a news source? Or would you call it a what would you call it?
Publication. They do they have a lot of good content. I actually have a subscription to their whole site.
So you're a part of the cult?
Yes, absolutely.
That's what a lot of people
mainly for Jordan Peterson, but
yeah, Jordan.
I get all the extras on here too.
But I like Ben Shapiro, and I like Matt Walsh, and definitely Jordan Peterson, and many others that are on the Daily Wire. Those are just a few. Yeah. But here's an article from the Daily Wire, and here's the title. It says Christian high school withdraws from state tournament rather than compete against a team with trans player. It's a girls' high school basketball team in Vermont. They withdrew the state's playoff tournament last Tuesday. Actually, it was probably 2 Tuesdays ago, because it refused to play against a team that had a biological male on its roster. Now, I've talked about this before. I am 100% against transgender men. These are men that want to be female. I am totally against them playing in women's sports. I think it's crazy. I think it's insane. I really don't understand anybody out there that actually thinks this is okay, and so I think for me, I like the fact that this school stood up, withdrew from the tournament. They are setting a precedence. They are taking a stand for what they believe. Obviously, it's a Christian school, which even makes it better for me. But here's what they said. They said, quote, "We believe playing against an opponent with a biological male jeopardizes the fairness of the game and the safety of our players," end quote. And of course, the school had this quote in response, and it says, quote, "Allowing biological males to participate in women's sports sets or this is the same school, is they say allowing biological males to participate in women's sports sets a bad precedent for the future of women's sports in general, end quote. And I absolutely agree with this statement. I mean, Austin, you're young, we're really not seeing this as much as in your generation as the generation really below you that's younger than you. And so what are your thoughts?
I mean, I think for me, there's two things. Firstly, this is a Christian school, and they just started, well, they didn't just start, but they launched back in 1987, according to this article, and their mission literally is to glorify God by preparing students for college and for life through a program of academic excellence established in biblical truth. So you have a school that's standing up to its Christian biblical values, and so it's not, a lot of people in the media and that have been against this decision, they're saying that this is homophobic or transphobic. That's not what this is really about. For them, it doesn't line up with their values and their beliefs. And because they're a private Christian school, they have every right to make that decision, just as much as the other school that allowed this trans player to be on the team. While I personally don't agree with it because it was a public school, unfortunately, public schools, they are bound by, almost in a way, public opinion in a lot of ways. And so while I don't agree with it, this Christian school has every bit of precedent to stand up and basically say, no, we're not going to do that.
Yeah, and technically, even the public school could really make that decision. It's based really
on biology.
Well, and I mean, the school board, from what I understand, is the one that would actually say yes or no. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of red tape in that.
Yeah.
But, this whole woke transgender theology, it is insane. You actually sent me, I don't know if it was a TikTok or an Instagram video, and it basically showed what happens to people when they go woke. Yeah. And it was a video of Sam Smith before and
Demi
then after.
Lovato.
Yep, Demi Lovato. It was Madonna, and then it was Harry Styles. Yeah. And it is, I'm telling you guys, it is completely insane, the difference between these people. But when they first got into the showbiz, they were, literally what I would call normal. And then all of a sudden, they are just somebody completely different. Now, I found this on PragerU. And I don't have the lady's name in front of me, who she is. But any case, this is a video clip that I'm going to play for you of Sam Smith talking, instead of using a male or female, man or woman, he uses pronouns, them. That's the them. You need to listen to this very closely. Here's what he says. Here we go.
Yeah, I'd love to be a fisher them.
What, like a fly fisherman?
I'd be any type of fisher them. I think I would like to, one day I'd just like to end my days fishing.
This has gone too far. Let's just admit it.
Literally, I couldn't stop the clip fast enough, but he says literally, fisher them, a fisher them. Mm-hmm. And you hear the person interviewing him say, you mean a fisherman? She almost stresses the word man, and he goes, fisher them again. People, come on. This is way too far for all of us to be changing the language, to be thinking about when we say things. I couldn't even tell you where to begin, but when I heard this, I was literally livid and just shocked that somebody is that woke that they're literally retraining their brains to say fisher them instead of just a fisherman.
Yeah.
You can be a woman and still be a fisherman.
Yeah.
You don't say fisher woman.
Yeah.
It's just I don't know, what do you call it? Just a figure of speech. It's just the way our culture's always been. And now here we are trying to change what has always been.
Yeah, I think for me it's one of those things where these people, that there's something that they are looking for, and they're trying to find it in their identity, and they're wanting to be included. But this is taking it too far. This whole thing has been taking it too far for quite a while. And I think for me, it's like they've literally bought into this lie. And it's not even that now. It's that they're wanting to sell this lie to everyone else and asking them to buy into this as if it's the truth. And it's not working.
Yeah, and I mean, and it just goes even further. I mean, as I'm looking at different articles and seeing what's out there, I see another one that says Ian Fleming is the latest author whose work will face revisions once his James Bond novels are edited to remove racist language. Here you have all these James Bond movies that have been out for years. I mean, they're like celebrating a 70th anniversary for this collection of his first book, Casino Royale. And what this company has done that owns Fleming's work, they hired what they call a sensitivity reader. So what that tells me is you just got this weak, woke, super extreme, sensitive person that is now reading everything with this sensitivity to cut out all the things that have been for the last 70 years in these books. And that's just another thing that I look at that is absolutely insane. Listen, we have to take a break. I've already gone over the time. We'll be right back in just a minute. All right, we're back from the break, and we had to end pretty quickly because I got a little fired up about this whole Ian Fleming situation, about how they're now editing books. I think, Austin, what I wanted to say on that is, okay, they're going to go through and they're going to edit these books that are 70 years old. They're going to go through, what are we going to start doing with everything now?
Yeah.
You know, now that we have this woke generation that is offended by pretty much everything. I mean, literally everything. Now, what does that look like for us, that we would have to go back and change everything, considering this is the way it's been for 70 years or longer?
Yeah, I think anytime you avoid history, you end up, or remove history, you end up repeating history.
That's good.
And so I think for us, instead of looking back at this content and saying, well, it's so racist, we should remove it, we should sensitize it, or censor it. That's what they're doing. This reminds me of the movie The Giver, where they took away the differences of every single person and they gave all of those memories to one person so that way they would never forget, but everyone else was operating as if it had always been this way. And what ends up happening is, if you take away what makes us different, if you take away what we did wrong, then we're doomed to repeat that in the future. And what people are not understanding is that it doesn't reflect society now. I think the advancements that we've come to are good things. Racism ending, everyone hopefully agrees that that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But to remove racist remarks from a movie or a piece of literature that was reflective of the day, that helps us understand where we've come as a society.
Yeah.
And if you take that away, then what are we working towards? We're working towards literally communism, socialism.
Yep.
You know, it's not equity, it's not equality anymore, it's equity. They want everything to be equal.
Yep. Well, inclusivity.
Yeah, that's not how you solve these issues.
No.
You have to talk about it in a historical context.
I love that perspective that, you know, this is the way culture was 70 years ago. Why are we going to change it? It really shows us how far we've come.
Yeah.
And that's a great perspective. Well, listen, this is the segment that we usually do for this day in history, so we're just going to kind of jump over to that. On March the 4th in 1933, at the height of the Great Depression, this was Franklin D. Roosevelt was inaugurated as the 32nd president of the United States. In his famous inaugural address delivered outside the East Wing of the U.S. Capitol, Roosevelt outlined his New Deal as an expansion of the federal government as an instrument of employment, opportunity, and welfare, and told Americans that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I talked about this particular saying from FDR last week or the week before, or maybe, you know what, I actually did it in just a blog that I did, or like in a little video on my Facebook page. That's what it was. I was talking about fear. Yeah. And he literally says, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. And although it was a rainy day in Washington and gusts of rain blew over Roosevelt as he spoke, he delivered a speech that radiated optimism and competence, and a broad majority of Americans united behind their new president as radical economic proposals to lead the nation out of the Great Depression. Born into an upper-class family in Hyde Park, New York, in 1882, Roosevelt was the fifth cousin of Theodore Roosevelt, who served as the 26th U.S. president from 1901 to 1909. In 1905, Franklin Roosevelt was at that time a student at Columbia University Law School who married Anna Eleanor Roosevelt, the niece of Theodore Roosevelt. After 3 years as a lawyer, he decided to follow his cousin Theodore's lead and sought public office, winning election to the New York State Senate in 1910 as a Democrat. He soon won a reputation as a charismatic politician dedicated to social and economic reform. I wasn't around in those times. What are you smiling about?
It's just funny how the History Channel paints this.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
So
What?
the reason why we have term limits for presidents is because of FDR. He was the longest serving president. He spent 3 terms in office, 12 years. And he was the most socially reformed. We have Medicaid and Medicare, not Medicaid and Medicare. We have so what is it? Social Security as a result, and that really started the nanny state or the welfare state. Mm-hmm. And so, yay.
Yeah, it's interesting, obviously, but hey, on this day, many years ago, FDR was a president. He was inaugurated. And, it's history, right?
Yeah.
We're going back, looking at where we are. Again, it's crazy how, when it comes to the different presidents, as we see Democrat, Republican, whatever, you're always seeing this shift. You're always seeing a flip-flop in, you go 8 years with one way, then a new one gets in, then you're 8 years another way, or vice versa. And it's crazy how it works. And really what that tells me is it's all about balance. God ultimately knows what he's doing. And even though I may not be happy with our current president, our current administration, I know that God's in complete control of what is going on.
Yeah.
And that's just where we have to take it, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean we give up. It doesn't mean we quit on what it is that we're fighting for. It doesn't mean we stop talking about topics and trying to work through some of the social issues or political issues that we deal with every single day. It's really teaching the biblical issues of how we, as a people, especially like you and I, Austin, that we have a background. We have this biblical worldview.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to talk about this in the last segment because a new research, a new poll came out from Barna Research on what the new biblical worldview is in America, and it's absolutely crazy to me with as many Christians that call themselves Christians that do not have a biblical worldview.
Yeah.
But before we get into that, we're gonna have to take another break here in a couple minutes. We got about 2 minutes left. I want to talk just real quick because a lot of people ask me about what is my perspective on counseling or a life coach, and I just want to throw this in there because we're talking about a lot of controversial things. We're talking about things that can be very hurtful. We're talking about things that people come from a particular past, and maybe they're having a hard time getting through the past. And a lot of people look at counseling as a last resort. They look at counseling like, that they're at their wits' end. And that may be very true for many people, but for me, here's what I tell people. You don't wait to change your oil when your engine blows up. You actually change your oil so your engine don't blow up.
Yeah.
So I look at counseling exactly the same. And here at Roots, I encourage people to have a counselor on a retainer, just like an attorney, right?
Yep.
I have a life coach. I actually spoke to her today about someone else needing help. She's so busy that she cannot take on more clients, which tells me that we have a major mental health issue in our country. But it also tells me that more and more people are probably taking the viewpoint of life coach / counselor is actually good for you versus that it has to be a last resort. We only have about 50 seconds. What's your thought? Because I know you also have a counselor.
Yeah, I've got a life coach. I've been doing that for 3-4 years. Mm-hmm. I genuinely don't think I'd be here today if I wouldn't have taken the time and put myself out there and gotten one of those. So I'm an advocate for it. We're an advocate for it. And mental health is one of the biggest things. We're seeing the biggest crisis right now in our world. And
there's so much confusion, so much just, your truth, my truth, but not the truth. And so I just want to encourage you out there. If you need to talk to someone, find a person, find a professional counselor that can help you work through the things that you're dealing with on a daily basis. Listen, we got to take another break. We'll be right back in just a moment. All righty, we are back from the break, and I don't know where you guys are, but thank you for staying with us. Thank you so much for listening to us here on the Real Talk Radio network, radio station, app, wherever you're listening from. And again, my name is Jason, and this is Unfiltered Radio Show. Right now, I want to talk to you about a prison that has kind of come out into the spotlight, and it's in El Salvador. And basically, it's the largest prison. I'm trying to find the article. It's the largest prison like in the world. I mean, this thing is huge. And what it is right now, the president, I can't even pronounce his name, not even going to try, but the president of El Salvador, he, decided that he was going to, crime was extremely high there in El Salvador, and he decided that he was going to create this prison, and he was going to get these MS-13 gang members off the street. And so here you have this, they've transferred over 2,000 gang members to the Center for the Confinement of Terrorism. It's the new largest prison in America, which can keep over 40,000 prisoners in it.
Holy cow.
There's actually a video. There are so many guards. I didn't even look. I don't even think it tells us how many guards are hired, but it is insane how many guards are actually. And here's the cool part is every prisoner's head is shaved. As every prisoner is wearing like a white shorts. They have no shoes. I mean, they literally, and I mean, you can just see them. They're all tattooed up. You can see they're gang members, and they're just seeing massive positivity out of this situation. And it just reminds me of what it looks like here in the States and what we're dealing with when it comes to our prisons and how jacked up our judicial system is. I want to read to you just a little bit. There's a pie chart in one of these articles that I looked up, and it basically shows us, right? There's 1.9 million people currently incarcerated, and that includes juveniles. These systems, they hold, roughly 2 million people. I mean, we're literally almost 2 million people. There's 1,566 state prisons. There's 102 federal prisons, and then there's over 2,800 local jails with 1,500 juvenile correction facilities, and then another 186 immigration detention facilities. And then they've got 82 Indian country jails, as well as military prisons, civil commitment centers, state psychiatric hospitals, and prisons in the U.S. territory. So out of all that, there's 1.9 million people incarcerated, close to 2 million people. Crime is extremely high here in the United States. They're locking up 500 and something people per 100,000. I mean, it's insane how bad it is. And I'm watching this El Salvador president take charge, and literally he's locking these people up, and they're not getting out. And they're seeing a lot of change. If I look at this article, I don't know if you're reading it or not.
Yeah, well, I have.
I don't know where in this article I should have highlighted.
Are you talking about the murder rate?
Yeah, well, it was saying, do you see it in there?
Yeah. So down at the very bottom, the murder rate went from 103 per 100,000 inhabitants. In 2015, it's now at 7.8 per 100,000 as of this past year.
That's insane.
Basically.
It even says that.
Yeah. They've said they've seen 300 days of no homicides since they've done this.
300 days of no homicides.
In America, now our population is totally bigger.
Sure.
But our numbers should still reflect that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, our numbers are just 10 times higher than that.
I mean, you even said it. It was like 500 and something per 100,000 instead of, so ours is 5 times as much because we have 5 times as many people.
Right.
But
this is exactly why old Mary Lightfoot didn't get reelected in Chicago.
Yep. And that's
'Cause
why
she's
Kim
not-
Gardner is under attack right now in St. Louis.
They're
'Cause
not
they're
doing
not-
anything about crime.
Well, yeah, they're
People are shooting people left and right. People are, they're killing people, murder, homicides everywhere. There is crime everywhere, and we're not doing anything about it. As a matter of fact, I read in this article that most of the people, in local jails are still innocent. They're just there because they don't have the money to go out on bail. And who knows how many people are out on bail right now. Those numbers aren't even reflected here.
Right.
These are just the people that are actually in jails.
Incarcerated, yeah.
But the ones that are, you're innocent until proven guilty. Supposedly, I don't believe that's true in America, but that's supposedly what's happening.
yeah.
You almost have to prove your innocence today.
Yeah.
Instead of them proving you're
guilt,
guilty,
yeah.
you're trying to prove that you're innocent is completely backwards. And it's scary because I really do believe there are people in jail right now that shouldn't be in jail.
It does happen. I mean, the statistics.
It's not the majority, obviously.
No, it's not. But I mean, we've known someone who has, I think on the flip side, we've known somebody who's gone into that justice system for good reasons. They get out, and what we're seeing now is it's like you're being kicked when you're down because it's all about money.
Yeah.
And so you fail to pay, whether it's an ankle monitor, that costs money.
Yep.
You don't pay, then they throw you back into the system. Then you're losing your job, you're losing your house, you're losing all these things. And so it seems like it's all funneled around money. That's money buys innocence is kind of what a lot of people are seeing now.
Yeah, and I mean, it says, what's the difference between a jail versus a prison? Prisons are facilities under state or federal control where people who have been convicted, they're usually felonies, go to serve for their sentences. Jails are city or county ran facilities where a majority of the people locked up are there awaiting trial. In other words, they're still legally innocent, but because they can't afford to post bail, right? They're in jail. And so to make things a little more complicated, some people do serve their sentences in local jails, either because their sentences are short or because the jail is renting space to the state prisons because there's nowhere to put people.
Yep.
I don't know. I know it's harsh, but for some people, they just need, we need to have the death penalty in many cases. That's just the way I see it.
Yeah,
There's a lot of people.
on that one.
There's people taking up space in prison that don't deserve to be a citizen on this earth because of what they've done to somebody.
I think
The Bible says an eye for an eye.
Yeah.
You take a life, your life should be taken. Period.
Yeah. Well,
What you're over here looking like you don't believe that.
I believe in the biblical version of that, but I think where do we draw the line? Where is it that
I'll tell you where we draw the line. When you start putting people on death row for killing someone, then people will start to think about not to kill someone. Yeah. The problem is everything is so lenient. It's a slap on the wrist. You get in jail for drugs. Guess what? You get let go. You get in jail for drugs. You get let go. How many times are you going to go to jail for drugs and then not stay there?
But should you be put on death row if you do drugs?
No, I didn't say that.
But that's what I'm saying. I mean, if you kill somebody in Missouri, the option, it's to the people. The jury decides that. Now, there's some statutes that say, okay, this is the death penalty. There's some states where the statute says if you kill someone, you are automatically put basically on death row. The problem is death row is 10 or 20 years sometimes because there's so many people in line for that.
It shouldn't take that long.
It does. It
take a month.
It's actually so much more expensive to kill somebody through lethal injection, which is the most humane way they found to do it.
It's more expensive than actually feeding somebody 3 square meals a day and providing them housing. I mean, heat, air, weights, book reading, education.
Because you get all of that.
I mean, you think about it. People in prison have better education, better living, better food than most people out here in America.
I agree with that. I don't agree with that being the state of our prisons. But what I'm saying is that it costs more money to put somebody on death row than it does in a lot of cases of them serving their sentence. Because these people that are lifers,
I can think of a very inhumane way to save a lot of money on that.
Right. I don't think that's what Jesus had in mind when he said eye for an eye. Is all I'm getting at. That's all I'm saying. I think we sometimes take. It makes sense when it comes to murder.
Yeah. And that's
I
exactly
don't
what I'm talking
think,
about.
You know, like if you take heroin and you get caught, they shouldn't inject you with heroin in the jail.
I think you should just rot there for a long time. Okay. But I'm talking about murder.
Yeah.
I'm talking about, rape.
Yeah.
I'm talking about those two things.
But who is the judge in that? Because we got to...
What judge do you need if you literally have clear evidence that they murdered them or that they raped them?
But you don't have to have clear evidence. You have to have reasonable, what do they call that? Beyond reasonable doubt. So the jury decides that. You know how many times people are lenient to do the death penalty because of how juries have been wrong in the past.
Yeah, I agree.
So unless there is that concrete proof.
But here's the way I agree. I do agree that you need to have good proof. But, there's a side of me that also says, think of the very, very, very small chance that you're in the wrong place at the wrong time. Yeah. Right. And it can happen, but it's such a small percentage that it's probably like a dot. Right. Yeah. The majority of these cases are clear cut, and they're clogging up and in mass production in these prisons, being held, like you said, 10 years to go on death row, right, when really it shouldn't take that long. It's ridiculous how long it takes for these things to happen because there's so many. Well, the reason why there's so many is because we're not doing anything to set a precedence for the problem.
But if there are so many on death row, then how is that problem going to be solved by just quickening up the deaths?
You have to set a precedence that it's
it's immediate. I'm
not
genuinely
saying that.
trying
I'm
to...
just saying you have to have, if the law says you die by however because you murder someone and you're guilty, then they need to do it. They don't need to wait 10 years. They need to do it. They need to follow through. Money should not buy your freedom at that point. Once that starts happening, then people, not everybody, but a lot of people will start thinking twice about that. Okay. A lot of people will start playing. Now, that's not the obvious fix, because if we want to really fix the problem, we got to go back to the fatherless homes that we're dealing with. That's the majority of the issue.
And mental health, but... Yeah.
Mental health, but fatherless homes is definitely, in my opinion, the base for many, many, many people in prison. It's 80+% of men in prison come from fatherless homes.
And it's mostly men.
It is mostly men.
Yeah.
And so, therefore... what do we do, right?
Well,
and I'm about fixing the root cause for sure. I'm not saying go out there and murder everybody that's killed somebody, but I do believe in the death penalty. Just so if anybody asks, I 100% believe in the death penalty. And if they ever call me for jury duty, they're going to know I'm for the death penalty. I'm just going to tell you right now, you probably don't want me on that jury.
You do
because I'm going after it.
It costs an average of $1.26 million. Yeah, I looked it up. $1.26 million for a death penalty case.
Do not believe that for 1 second.
And then it costs an average of $740,000.
The Democrats must be involved.
Well, this is from a legislature a statistic in Nevada.
I'm going to have to ask my friends. I got friends in low places.
In Nevada, it costs an average of $1.26 million to execute someone. That means now, who pays for that?
Who do you think?
The state taxpayers.
Right.
I don't want that. I mean, if they know they're going to rot in jail, that's fine. But we have to mean it. We can't say on bail, we
just put them on a spaceship and just ship them out into the space.
I'm sure Elon would do that for $200,000 a seat.
We could save a lot of money there, can't we?
It's like the new Australia.
I think, Austin, between you and I, we could solve all the world's problems just between us.
Yeah, okay. I don't know. We might be stuck in the thought pattern there. I don't know. We'll see.
I don't know. I get very...
it is frustrating.
It's very frustrating.
It's ridiculous.
The whole judicial system's messed up. I don't feel like our system really follows through with what the law says.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of loopholes, right?
And in comparison to other places, I mean, we do have it good, I feel like. So I don't know.
So I'd say we have it good because they get off on so many things.
Well, we need reform, but... Yeah.
Let's take a break. Okay. We'll be back in a minute. All right. We are back, and we are talking about death row, and we've been in a conversation. We actually got in this conversation during the little break, and we didn't want to talk anymore because we want this conversation to be real. We don't want it to be rehearsed. But I basically told Austin, because, he's wanting hard evidence, he's wanting solid evidence, because, yes, people are wrongfully accused. sucks. It does. It really sucks. It's not fair. Unfortunately, it's going to happen. It's just a very small percentage of people where it's going to happen to. However, what's crazy to me, because I was watching this movie, Mayor of Kingstown. I don't know if you've seen it. I'm not saying I recommend it. Got to fast through some parts that I don't understand why they have to put in the movie, but that's the way it is. But this young man goes on death row, and the mom and the sister are watching this, and you know Jeremy Renner, the actor, is guiding them through it in the very first episode. And I can't imagine if that was my son, it would be extremely hard to watch. No doubt. I would not want that to happen. But if you're the family where your son or your daughter or your mom or your wife was murdered by him, then in your mind you're like, yes, I want him dead because of what he's done. And you made the statement.
Yeah.
Go ahead and tell your statement that you would like to hope that you could.
I would like to hope that, I'm getting ready to get married, and I know how I feel about my fiance, who's going to be my wife. And I know how protective I get even when just another guy, maybe brushes up against her, maybe intentionally or otherwise. So I can only imagine that. But then it goes back to when we were talking about an eye for an eye. I hope that I would have it in me enough to be forgiving about that person's state. Maybe they were in a mental state, psychosis. Maybe they are literally maybe they do need to be, because they're a menace to society like you were talking about. I hope, though, that I would have the ability to be like Jesus as much as possible in that scenario. And I don't think he would want that. I don't know.
Okay, so when you said that, I said, listen, I would if he does not apologize to me, then I don't have to forgive him in a relational side of things, but I would forgive him in the aspect of, it's God says he'll bring vengeance on that person. But as far as the law goes, there's consequences. So yeah, I would hope the guy would get saved. I would hope the guy would be remorseful for what he did, but the consequence still needs to be had.
And that's fine.
And the reason why is because if there's no consequence, and what we've seen is these people that are on death row, these people that are in prisons, they get right back out and then they do the same thing over and over again. Let me give you an example right here in St. Louis, Missouri, that just happened to a young girl down on Washington Avenue near the cigar bar where we like to go every now and then. She was in town for a volleyball tournament. What was she, 17 years old, 18 years old?
17.
And here you got this guy that drives down the road, gets into an accident, and flips the car, hits this girl, and now she's lost both of her legs. Come to find out that this young man had been in trouble multiple times, broke his parole. He had an ankle bracelet, took that ankle bracelet off like 20-something times.
Yeah, I remember that.
And now this young girl, because he keeps getting out and they keep letting him go, now her life is completely changed.
And that is totally different to me, because that is us not enacting justice. That's just negligence. And Kim Gardner, who's the prosecuting attorney for St. Louis, is a joke. And I hope she's listening to this, because she's absolutely a joke and she needs to be recalled. But that's different than somebody being on death row. Somebody on death row is not getting off of death row. If they are getting off death row, the only way I could see that being possible is if evidence comes out that says,
what's the point of them being on death row until they die in jail?
Well, they're not. They're waiting for their turn, because all of these cases, there's a process that they have to go through to make sure.
Yeah, but many of them they never even get injected.
I don't know about that. That's out of my, I'll trust you when you say that. I don't know. All I'm saying is, I just don't know. So our justice system, that's not biblical, though. Like, wanting justice is not biblical. That's not a biblical worldview. That is an American worldview. So
you're telling me
the law is not a biblical worldview. That's
yeah, it is.
That's an American.
It's in Romans 13.
Yeah, but I agree with you.
Romans 13 puts it into place. That's why we have order. That's why we have structure.
Correct, but
God
it doesn't mean
puts
we have
that in place.
But it doesn't mean that as a Christian I have to agree with the death penalty. I don't have to agree with the level of consequence.
I'm not saying you have to agree with it. Of course not. But I'm saying that I do agree with it, and I think it's legit.
But the death penalty is not a biblical thing. That is something that we can subscribe to.
I think it is absolutely biblical. Eye for an eye.
Okay, but then can I say this one part?
Absolutely.
In Romans, because that's in the Old Testament. In Romans, it says, repay no one evil for evil, but give thought to what is honorable in the sight of all, if possible, as far as it depends on me.
That's in a personal thing. Like, for instance, I can't go out because I'm mad at somebody and go kill them. If you kill my wife, I can't go kill you. That's not my responsibility biblically.
Right.
But the law says...
Right. But you can still be frustrated and not want that to be their fate.
Sure, but I'm saying, though, but the law says that they should die.
Correct, and that should be...
And I'm okay with that, and they should die, not by my own deal.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's what the Bible is saying.
I'm just saying, as a Christian, I don't think the death penalty is all that it's cracked up to be. I think it can be beneficial. I think it should be a very case-by-case basis when it comes to murder and rape, or... should we kill somebody who's into child pornography? No, I don't think that.
I think we should actually ship them to Pluto.
Okay, well, that's fine. We can ship them to Mars, but
they should not be. If you are into child porn, you are raping children. Yes, you should die.
Okay.
Period.
All right. And I'm not saying I disagree with that specific statement. I'm just saying.
I guarantee if your child was raped by a man, you would think differently. I don't have one that's raped.
I'm not doubting that.
But I'm going to tell you right now, I will fight for all the ones that have had that happen. Yeah. And I'm not going to go do it.
Right.
But if they asked me to do it, I would absolutely be the first person to pull the trigger.
Okay, well.
If the government said, hey, Pastor Jason, you have an opportunity that is legal, I would have no issue pulling the trigger. I know that sounds harsh, but I'm saying legal. I wouldn't go do it on my own.
Right.
I wouldn't go kill that person on my own. I would want to.
You're saying, though, in essence, it's not that...
I'm going to be in trouble for saying all this.
No, you're not. You're saying that, in essence, that if it's legal and you're saying you're okay with the legal process.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm saying I'm questioning the legal process of it. I don't know and I don't know what scenario that would be applicable, except for maybe that one that we just talked about.
The Bible says don't repay evil for evil. That is on a personal level. If somebody hurts my family, the Bible says that it's not my job to go hurt them back.
Right.
That's very hard to do because we're human beings with human emotions, human frustrations, and guess what? I'm not Jesus, although I'm supposed to be like Jesus. There are times where I'm not like Jesus, right? That's the human nature. Yeah. Now, I believe that I wouldn't do that. Right. However, if the judicial system says, yes, we found him guilty, he needs to die, I am 100% in agreement with that. And if they would allow me to pull that trigger or to inject them with whatever legally, I would have no problem doing it either.
Wow.
But it'd have to be legally.
I don't know. That's interesting.
Yeah, we're going to end on this.
That's good.
You guys have to think about it. Let me know what you think in the chat. I've got friends that believe the same way I do. Some of these are pastor friends, and I've got pastor friends that are complete opposite. But that's what makes the world go around, and that's why there's so many different personalities in the world. Yep. Thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next time.